We're creating a visual novel with Flutter and Flame. Today we control the scene and dialogue with the button press. This technique uses a tappable mix-in on the sprite component. The playlist has additional techniques as well as a link to the GitHub repository in the description. Today we're going to change the scene, so you'll need a background image. I'm using one from the Wikimedia Commons. Copy the background scene into the Assets Images folder of your project. I've changed the file name to castle.jpg and then run flutter pub get. Instantiate a new sprite component as background2 above the onload method in Flame game. And then we're going to use the background2 inside of the onload method to attach the sprite to it. In the onload method, copy the existing code for the background and paste it above it so that we can assign the sprite to the new background 2, which will be for scene 2. We load the sprite with the file name. In this case, this file name is castle.jpg. This is the file that we just downloaded from the Wikimedia. Inside of the dialog button, the class that we created earlier, create a new integer variable that will hold the scene level. So we're on scene 2, and every time we put a piece of text up there for the dialog, we're going to increment the counter, and that's how we're going to be able to change the dialog text when you press the button. So the first thing is to get a counter so that we know which piece of dialog we're on. Increment the variable in the onTapDown method. Set up a switch statement to check for the scene 2 level variable. Every time it changes, we're going to change the dialog. The button was instantiated as dialog button. This was covered in the previous video. We're going to access the instance variable scene 2 level directly from the dialog button. And if the case is 1, so if we increment it from 0 to 1, it will be a new scene with a different background and different positions and different text. The dialog is drawn on a black rectangle on the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to clear out that text area by just drawing another rectangle that's the same size, and we'll make it black. So we're going to use the canvas.drawRect, and the first property parameter is a rectangle of the width of the bottom of the screen. I'm not going to have it all the way to the right of the screen because the button's right there. I don't want to block out the button. So we're going to subtract 60. The button, if you recall, is 50 pixels wide, and then there's a 10 pixel buffer or a border around it, spacing. There's a lot of numbers here, but it's just the left, top, width, and height of the rectangle. And then we have the color. So we have to paint the color, and the color will be black. We're just drawing a black rectangle to blank out the screen so that the text doesn't overwrite on existing text. And now we're going to get this dialog text paint that we built in the previous lesson, and we're going to change the string. So in scene 2, if the first piece of dialogue will be from Ken, and he's very shocked. This is a big surprise for him that there's a child. Restart the game, and let's see if the button press can now trigger the new piece of text that's going to come. Previously, the text was triggered by the position of the girl moving across the screen. Press the button, and it works. Congratulations, you're now a visual novel app developer. We can now change the text based on the button press. So let's copy case 1, make it case 2, and then change the string that's being rendered to the screen. So Ken surprised, child, I did not know, and then Keiko confirms that yes, he heard her right, there's a child on the way. However, Ken's from this poor samurai family, and so he's gonna need to go to battle regardless, or at least he feels that way in this storyline. So in case 3, he's just thankful that there's a child so that at least his descendants will carry on. These are just some simple techniques to introduce you to Flame and the capabilities of this great game development platform. I'm going to create another integer variable to hold the scene that we're on. I want Ken to turn around and face the girl when she says that there's a child on the way. So I'm going to put a check in when he flips so that he only flips. In this case, it's flipping it between turning toward her and turning away when the scene is on level 1. Then we'll go back to our switch statement that's in the render method. And when it's on, when the scene's on level 2, we'll flip them back for the first time. The flip horizontally is a method that's built into all the sprite components in Flame. The sprite component is very powerful with many methods attached to it to make your life easier as a app developer. So in scene 2, dialog level 1, so in case 1, this is the first change of the scene. So the first thing that I want to do is she just dropped this big piece of news on Ken. So he's going to turn toward her. We first check to see whether Ken is turned away. If he's turned away, then we're going to flip him. And now that he's not turned away from her, so we'll set it to false. Let's test it. And he's facing her. Then, she says, go off to war. Then it's interactive, and he faces her again. I'm going to adjust Ken's position because he's a little too close to her to have a more serious talk. So I'm going to push his position .x over by 150 pixels. So that extra 150 pixels will give them a little bit more reasonable space between them to have this type of serious discussion. Also, since when we move him, he's on scene 2, I don't want him to move back toward the girl. So we're going to make sure and put a check in here so that he's only moving when he's on scene 1. If he goes to scene 2, he's just going to be static and just stay in that position for the discussion he has with Keiko. Additionally, I want the scene to be inside of an old Japanese castle so that they've moved into an area where they can have a more serious discussion. Then to actually change the background, we're going to first delete the background, the characters, because they're layered. And then we'll add the new background, and then we'll also add Keiko and Ken. So this line here will prevent him from moving in the scene 2. We'll just test it. Okay, and then in scene 2, he's not moving anymore. He's static, and that's the spacing that we want for this next scene here. So our next step is to then we're going to remove the background, the boy and the girl from the scene, and then recreate scene 2. We'll change the background. It'll be a new background, but it will be the same boy and the girl. So after we add the new characters in, let's retest the scene and make sure that everything is recreated. So with the new background, the new position of the boy, he's not going to be moving, and then we'll have the interactivity with the text dialog based on the button press. Okay, now button press, it's changing, and there's no background change here. So I need to set it to background 2, and let's try it again. Text is initially changing based on the girl's position. When they meet, he's facing away, he's now facing her, and the dialogue is now changing. All right, everything's working. Congratulations. I'm next planning to show you how to add music or background music to the scene, as well as use the Flame built-in timer to create some motion of the character, maybe just the position as they're talking. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for future updates. Hope you're having a great time with Flame. I just think it's wonderful and a great outlet for your creativity. Post in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're doing. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. It'd also be great to point me to something that you've built. Have a great day.